Turkish President Erdogan has agreed to forward the Turkish parliament Sweden's bid to join the NATO military alliance. Sweden and Finland applied for NATO membership last year, abandoning their policies of military non-alignment in response to Ukraine's invasion. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg announced Turkey's decision from Vilnius, Lithuania, and in return, Sweden and Turkey would continue to work bilaterally against terrorism. The statement issued by both countries said Sweden will also help reinvigorate Turkey's application to enter the European Union. France, Emmanuel Macron and Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni have arrived in Vilnius ahead of the NATO summit. The summit meetings will be held on the 11th and 12th of July. Leaders will address Ukraine's membership bid and Sweden's accession to boosting ammunition amongst other things. The summit looks set to be dominated by how NATO will define its future relationship with Ukraine. Now, leaders are also expected to discuss the security assurances that Kyiv should get post the war. These pledges will be bilateral and not issued by the alliance itself. At the onset of the NATO summit, Ukrainian President Zelensky expressed confidence that Ukraine will become part of the alliance. Despite the NATO leaders being divided on Ukraine's entry into the alliance, Zelensky said that majority of countries are backing war-torn Ukraine, while the Eastern allies are pushing for Kyiv to get assurance on its joining. The US and Germany seemed reluctant on it. Zelensky said that Vilnius, the summit there, must confirm Ukraine is already de facto a member of NATO as it shares values with the alliance. While Russia has said that Ukrainian entry into NATO would be a threat requiring tough response. Ukraine's head of military intelligence said in an interview that Wagner fighters reached a Russian nuclear base during the mutiny. Their intention was to acquire small Soviet-era nuclear devices to raise the stakes in their mutiny. He added that the only barrier between the Wagner fighters and nuclear weapons were the doors to the nuclear storage facility. They were that close. While Ukraine's head of military intelligence did not provide evidence for his assertion, the US officials too expressed doubts about this account. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has resumed his government's quest to change Israel's justice system. The parliament gave preliminary approval to a new bill which limits Supreme Court powers. It seeks a curb on the Superior Court's powers to void decisions made by the government, ministers and elected officials by ruling them unreasonable. The nod has rekindled unprecedented nationwide protests, which are likely to intensify if the bill passes. The protests have stirred concern for Israel's democratic health among its Western allies and bruised the economy. An Iranian Revolutionary Guards commander accused the US Navy on Monday of defending fuel smuggling in the Gulf. This came after the US Navy allegedly tried to interfere when Iran intercepted a ship last week. The IRGC commander said US aircraft had flown into the area while Iranian forces were moving to intercept the vessel. Now, there is footage of the same that showed the US A-10 warplane flying near the tanker while an IRGC boat was nearby. Cuba has accused the US government of bearing direct responsibility for the protests that rocked the Caribbean island in 2021. The protest is marked as the largest demonstration since Fidel Castro's revolution of 1959. The Communist Party-run Granma newspaper wrote, and I'm quoting here, "The United States has a direct responsibility for the disturbances of July 11th and July 12th. in the relevant year. Now, in July 2021, thousands of Cubans took to the streets to protest a deepening economic crisis, the worst in 3 decades. However, the protests were short-lived. Cuban authorities have since sentenced hundreds to prison, prompting calls of human rights violations from activists. China and the Solomon Islands signed a new deal on police cooperation on Monday. The new deal is an expansion of their relations to a comprehensive strategic partnership. The Police Cooperation Pact is among 9 deals signed after Solomon Islands Prime Minister met with Chinese Premier Li Qiang in Beijing. Underlining his nation's foreign policy shift, Sogavare arrived in China for his first visit since the two countries struck a security pact last year. Major parts of North India have reported loss of life and loss of property due to relentless rains. This unleashed more death and destruction on Monday in parts of North India. Torrential rains killed at least 42 people in the last 72 hours. This is as per several reports coming in from the region. At least 2 people have died in torrential rains in Japan. Due to the fear of rise in death toll, tens of thousands of residents were told to evacuate their homes. As per reports, landslides triggered by rains have killed at least 6 people in Japan, and the downpours have caused rivers to burst their banks. Japan has 5 levels of evacuation orders, and thousands of people were put under a top-level evacuation warning. Amongst various other countries, Japan is one of the latest to be hit by unusually heavy rain. The monsoons have raised new fears of the pace of climate change in the country. Torrential downpours pounded the U.S. northeast, threatening catastrophic flooding across the region. As per authorities, rains have washed out roadways, overwhelmed rivers, and caused at least 1 fatality. More than 13 million Americans are under flood watches and warnings after storms inundated rivers and streams. More than 1,000 flights to and fro from airports, including New York's LaGuardia and Boston's Logan, were delayed or cancelled due to the rain. Social media footage showed raging floodwaters reaching houses. New York's governor has issued a state of emergency and urged residents to watch the forecast closely throughout the day. The northeastern United States was inundated with heavy rain and flooding across several states. This after storms and flash floods washed out highways and killed 1 person in New York State. Now, some 13 million Americans were under flood watches and warnings from eastern New York State to Boston and western Maine to the northeast. A major landslide in Southern California continues to threaten more homes in Rolling Hills estates after 12 were destroyed when the hillside gave way and began sliding into the canyon. It caused the structures to collapse and forced residents to flee. According to officials, the homes in the city of Rolling Hills had been pulled off their foundations and that the land was continuing to move. It was unclear on Monday that what caused the landslide. No injuries have been reported. A volcano erupted near Iceland's capital. As per the Met office, the eruption followed an intense earthquake activity in the area. The images and videos of the incident showed lava and smoke emanating from a fissure in the ground. The peninsula is a volcanic and seismic hotspot. In March 2021, lava fountains erupted spectacularly from a 500 to 750 meters long fissure in the ground in the same area. According to new research, cows are major contributors to greenhouse gases, which leads to climate change. However, it has also been discovered that a humble plant daffodil extracts can be added to animal feed to significantly reduce the amount of methane. Scientists now hope the daffodil extract could reduce methane emissions by 30%, a huge step forward in the fight against climate change. The United Nations has estimated that of the world's 8 billion population, India is now home to 1.425 billion people. This matching and at some point is expected to surpass China's population. This comes as United Nations prepares to mark World Population Day. According to the UN, China's population will continue to fall and drop below 1 billion before the end of this century. Morocco's national women's football team will make its debut at this summer's FIFA Women's World Cup. They are the first to qualify from the Arab world, and after years of being largely in the margins, Moroccan women's football is gaining new ground at home and beyond as it captures the imaginations and hearts of young girls. Engineers from all over the world are gathering in Bordeaux for the RoboCup, the world's largest artificial intelligence competition. The event welcomes 2,500 participants from around 50 countries. One of the organizers say that from football matches to first aid workshops, technology is really progressing exponentially. Participants spend months solving diverse technical problems to enable their robots to autonomously play soccer, do household chores, or search for disaster victims. Alright, for some business updates, let's shift focus to Egypt, where the country is grappling with an unprecedented economic challenge. Egypt's inflation rate has soared to record levels, reaching an alarming 35.7% in June, surpassing previous highs experienced in 2017. The acute economic strains triggered by a shortage of foreign currency and repeated devaluations have sent prices skyrocketing, posing severe hardships as inflation continues its relentless climb. Many Egyptians find themselves grappling with the consequences. Ride-hailing platform Uber's chief financial officer Nelson Chai is all set to quit. Media reports suggest that he has already informed his intention to CEO Dera Khosrowshahi, but there's still no clarity on when he will leave office. The news of Chai's likely exit comes at a time when Uber is recording an upswing in its business as commuters return after COVID restrictions eased. Remember, the company said in May it was on track to post operating income profits this year. However, Uber's shares slid about 1% in post-market trading after the news broke out. Alright, there's been a remarkable economic development from Latin America and the Caribbean. In a stunning turn of events, the region has shattered records with an unprecedented surge in foreign direct investment in 2022, totaling a staggering $225 billion. Brazil, the largest economy in the region, claimed the lion's share of these investments, receiving 41% of the total FDI. Mexico, the second largest economy in the region, secured a significant 17%.